The year was 1980. On the evening of February 23rd, a high school girl in Toyama Prefecture was kidnapped on her way home from school. 2 days later, her parents received a ransom demand over the phone from a female voice for her safe return, but no monetary amount was specified. Then, a few short weeks later in early March, the girl's dead body was found in the mountains of neighboring Gifu Prefecture. It was the start of what would become known as the Toyama Nagano serial kidnapping and murder incident, or, more colloquially, the Red Fairlady murders. The second incident occurred shortly after the first, this time in Nagano Prefecture. A 20-year-old employee from a credit union was on her way home from work when she was abducted. Just like the family of the high school girl, this woman's parents also received a ransom demand over the phone from a female voice. The kidnapper demanded the family bring 300 million yen to Nagano Station the following day. Naturally, it was a little difficult for a regular family to come up with 300 million yen in 24 hours. So then, the kidnapper contacted them again and reduced the amount to 200 million. Again, the kidnapper told the family to bring the money to Nagano Station. The family of the woman did as instructed, but the kidnappers never showed up. A month later, the 20-year-old woman was found dead on a plateau in Nagano. She had been strangled to death. 2 women had been kidnapped in similar circumstances, leading police to believe the cases were connected, despite taking place in neighboring prefectures. The families of both victims received a phone call from a woman demanding a ransom. Both women had been alone on their way home at the time they were kidnapped, and in both cases, a red Fairlady Z sports car was seen near the women before they disappeared. Investigations led them to a 34-year-old gift store owner by the name of Miyazaki Tomoko. But who was she? And why did she kidnap and kill these women? Miyazaki was born on February 14, 1946, in Tsukioka Village, Toyama Prefecture. Her mother already had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. But their father passed away and she raised them alone after that. She then met Miyazaki's father, and although they did not officially marry, they lived together as common-law husband and wife. Miyazaki was not officially recognized by her father until she was 13 years old, although he did dote on her. Her mother, on the other hand, only showed affection to her 2 sons, and neglected Miyazaki and her sister. Miyazaki was a bright girl, said to have an IQ of 138, and she was one of the top students in her class. She was in the swim club at high school and was accepted into university in Tokyo upon graduation, but she had to give up on her dream because her family couldn't afford to send her there. The family had grown up poor, often on welfare for much of her childhood. They simply couldn't afford to send their youngest daughter all the way to Tokyo and pay for her university tuition on top of that. Miyazaki gave up on her dream of further education, but she still ended up moving to Tokyo. At first, she started work at an insurance company close to home, but she quit after a few months and moved to Tokyo, where she worked as a beauty consultant at a cosmetics company instead. At 23, she got married to a wealthy car salesman 4 years her senior, and together they had a son. But she soon fell ill with ovarian cysts, and her marriage broke down when she discovered her husband was having an affair. After the divorce, Miyazaki moved back to Toyama with her son, and once there, reportedly started hitting up marriage agencies to find herself a new husband. Her father passed away in 1975, and after, she had to work to support not just her son, but her mother as well, and for a period, she worked as a call girl to make ends meet. In 1977, Miyazaki met a man by the name of Kitano Hiroshi through another call girl. Despite Kitano already being married, the two quickly hit it off and started an affair. He presented to Miyazaki 4 conditions under which they could continue to have a relationship. They wouldn't speculate on each other's lives. They wouldn't interfere in each other's lives. They would both be free to do whatever they liked, and they would respect each other. If she could agree to those 4 conditions, then their relationship could continue, and Miyazaki had no problem with this. Kitano became not only her life partner, but her business partner as well. Initially, Miyazaki suggested the pair sell refrigerators, But over time, Kitano came up with more and more ideas to make money, and not all of them were above board. Business venture after business venture failed, and in the end, they established a gift store together. Once again, this venture didn't go well, and as they struggled for money, the pair took to engaging in fraud to get what they needed. This included forging the business cards of members of parliament to obtain money, as well as reselling land, against the law at the time. And yet, their debt ballooned to tens of millions of yen. Miyazaki's poor upbringing had been hard on her and helped shape her personality as she grew. At school, she used to lie about being wealthy and claimed that her father owned lots of land, which was quickly uncovered to be a lie. She hated being poor and believed that simply having money would make you happy. Even spending time with other rich people was enough to make her happy. She became obsessed with the idea of wealth and the happiness it could bring her due to her poor upbringing, which led to much unhappiness as a child, including ripping away her dream of going to university because they couldn't afford it. She once said that poor people will never be happy, no matter how hard they work. Even her first husband was a rich man she was potentially attracted to because of his wealth. He drove a Mustang and often bought her expensive goods. Yet after their divorce, Miyazaki hit obstacle after obstacle and was never able to achieve her dreams of wealth, which in her mind would bring her happiness. Failure after failure brought her down, and finally, she conspired with her life and business partner to try something new: murder. At first, the pair conspired to kill men for their life insurance money. Miyazaki would meet with various men from marriage agencies, get them to take out life insurance policies, and then she would make their deaths look accidental and claim the money. She took one man to the beach, knocked him out with chloroform, and then tried to kill him by making it look like he drowned. But while the man was knocked out, he didn't die. As such, the pair decided to try a new tactic. This time, they would kidnap someone and ask for a ransom for their safe return. Around this same time, Miyazaki bought an expensive Fairlady Z, red in color, going into further debt to do so. Perhaps ironically, it was this purchase outside her means that would eventually lead to her downfall. On February 23rd, 1980, only 9 days after her 34th birthday, Miyazaki was driving near Toyama Station in her red Fairlady Z when she spotted a high school girl walking alone. "Would you like to get some tea? I'll drive," she asked the teen out her car window. There was still some time until her bus arrived, and the girl, Nagaoka Yoko, was intrigued by the fancy foreign car, so she agreed and got in. Miyazaki drove the girl back to her gift store, and they went into the back office to drink and chat. Yoko's parents later called her, worried because she hadn't come home yet. She reportedly told them that she was at Miyazaki's gift store and the woman had approached her at the station and was offering her a part-time job. She ended up spending the night there. Remember, this was the early 1980s. And the next morning, Miyazaki offered to drive the girl home. However, she drugged the teen with sleeping pills and, when she passed out in the car, strangled her with a cord from a yukata that she had prepared earlier. She then drove to neighboring Gifu Prefecture and dumped the body in the woods. After she returned home, she called Yoko's parents and told them to meet her at a restaurant called Koshu at 11:30 a.m. That was all she said, but the girl's parents suspected that a kidnapping had taken place, and the call was about that. They went to the restaurant with a secret police escort, but Miyazaki never showed up. Nagaoka's father waited at the restaurant until closing, but nothing. On February 26th, Nagaoka's mother visited Miyazaki's gift store with a police officer in tow. Her daughter was still missing, and the last she had heard of her was that she was at this particular store, talking to the owner about a potential part-time job. Yet Miyazaki denied that she had ever met the girl, or that she had been there, and, with little else to go off, Nagaoka's mother and the officer left. The teen's body was found on March 5th with a ring of flowers around her neck. On that very same day, Miyazaki was already carrying out her second kidnapping. She approached her victim, 20-year-old Terusawa Yumiko, at a bus stop, just like she had done with the high school girl. Again, Terusawa was intrigued by the woman's fancy sports car, and because only a woman was inside, she was not on guard. Miyazaki asked her if she'd like to get something to eat, and the woman agreed. The pair had dinner at a local restaurant, and then, when they got back in the car, Terusawa passed out from sleeping pills Miyazaki had given her. Miyazaki then killed her in the car and threw her body off a cliff. The next evening, she called the woman's parents. "I have your daughter. At 10 a.m. tomorrow, bring 300 million yen to the waiting room at Nagano Station. If you alert the police, I won't call again." At this point, Terusawa was already dead, but her family was unaware of this. 300 million yen is no chump change, and they told the voice the best they could do was 100,000 yen. The caller then hung up. The family then received another call at 12:23 p.m. the next day, and the kidnapper dropped the price to 200 million yen, roughly $2 million, telling them to come to Nagano Station with the money at 2 p.m. Of course, Terusawa's family immediately contacted the police, and an investigation was set up. Terusawa's sister then received various phone calls from Miyazaki, changing the location numerous times. In the end, Miyazaki never showed up to this meeting either, and Terusawa's sister went home empty-handed. In reality, Miyazaki was there, but she had seen the investigators waiting and decided it wasn't worth it. The very next day, Miyazaki was summoned by police for questioning. Not for Terusawa's disappearance, but for Nagaoka's. Her parents mentioned Miyazaki and her gift store to the police when investigating Nagaoka's disappearance and subsequent discovery of her body, and her unique red Fairlady had been seen by numerous witnesses as well. Voice printing from the random calls also matched Miyazaki's voice. Both Miyazaki and Kitano voluntarily went in and underwent questioning, but neither confessed to either murder. The police had initially made an agreement with the media not to mention the two cases, although many had noticed the similarities. Several weeks had passed since the first incident, and the press as a whole upheld their part of the agreement while police investigated the case. But then, the magazine Shukan Shincho broke the silence and put out an article connecting both Nagaoka's and Terusawa's murders. The article came out on March 27th, 1980. The magazine decided unilaterally that the agreement was null and void because no progress was being made on the case. Although Terusawa was already deceased at this time, nobody outside of Miyazaki and Kitano knew this, so Shukan Shincho suffered great backlash from the police and public for potentially endangering her. The article led to the arrest of Miyazaki and Kitano, but now nobody could ensure Terusawa's safety, if she was indeed still alive somewhere and being held captive. When her body was found a month later by a man out walking, however, those hopes were dashed. Terusawa's body also had a ring of flowers placed around her neck. Then, Miyazaki and Kitano's long trial began. Police initially believed that Kitano was both mastermind and killer. It didn't even enter their minds that Miyazaki, a woman, could have committed the crimes all by herself. They interrogated Kitano and tried to get him to confess, but he pleaded not guilty and insisted he had not committed the murders. Technically, he wasn't lying, and when the police discovered he had alibis for both deaths, they realized that it really must have been Miyazaki. She carried out the kidnappings, murders, and dumping of the bodies alone. The trial began in 1985 and lasted for 3 years. In the end, Kitano was acquitted, and Miyazaki was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to death. She appealed numerous times, but in 1998, her death sentence was confirmed, almost 20 years after the murders took place. She's still sitting on death row in Nagoya Detention Center, now 77 years old, and has applied for a retrial 4 times, each time being denied. It's unknown when her sentence will be carried out. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.